How's it been going so far? The couple months you've been here.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Everything I thought it was going to be and more. Being with Beegs again has been a dream. So definitely excited to be here and excited for the future.
Yeah, you guys overlapped it over at Wyoming. Which years again?
I was at Wyoming from 14 to the spring of 18.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
good 4 years there.
What did you kind of learn most about Vegan, and what were your biggest impressions of him?
Yeah, I think right away I knew I wanted to get into coaching, and I didn't know necessarily my connection was David Brown at the time. He was a safeties coach for us. I didn't really know the offense, and I was lucky enough to learn from Coach Vegan and what he did in those early years at Wyoming, and was really impressive. Before Josh Allen was, to be able to manufacture offense the way he did, I thought was just amazing, and then just gradually just getting to learn how he did day-to-day business, and I really appreciated that side of things. And then Coach Bull, how he just operated the program and learning from that. And ever since I left there, I knew, all right, how do I get back with Coach Vegan? That was the dream, or the goal. So that's how we're here.
Yeah, the running back room is pretty prominent at this
Mm-hmm.
university and this program. Just what are kind of your first impressions, and how's it been working with that group?
Yeah, first impressions have probably gone back to when Coach Vegan first got here, following the program and just seeing the run game and how much it's evolved and how much it's really been the focal point of the offense. So it was exciting to get the opportunity to come coach these guys just because they are so talented. It's one of those positions where there's a fine line of overcoaching it and just letting them go. I think you look at what those guys did last year, particularly Julius and Adam, and what they were able to do just naturally is exciting. And my goal is to just kind of build on that and to be able to fine tune what they're really good at and just continue to grow that. And I think they're so far, and Adam's obviously rehabbing, but Julius has been doing some good things, and the other three guys have really been stepping up to the plate with the opportunities that they've had. And so I'm really blessed and excited to be coaching that group. It's a good group of guys, not only athletically, but just the type of young men they are is really fun to come to work every day.
It's something that you bring to the room and to the program that maybe they didn't have before.
Yeah, I think Coach Mix did a really good job with them. Obviously, when you're rushing for almost 300 yards a game, it's one of those things, these big shoes to fill. I think what I bring maybe is a little bit more of an over-encompassing. I didn't play running back, I played quarterback and coached pretty much every other position on the offensive side of the ball. So being able to add that perspective of the big picture, and I got to do more as a coach to really figure out how can I take their game to the next level. I can't tell them, hey, when I was playing, this is what I did. What I can bring to the table is experiences and what I've seen with even lesser athletes and what they were able to do and how they were able to set up some blocks and press holes or press their landmarks and be able to put linebackers on blocks in different ways, and safety rotation, just little things that could help them kind of see that second and third level. I think it'll help them just add to their athleticism. Now they have a little bit more of a background, so they can set up some things a little bit better.
Pretty proud offensive line there as well, new coach over there as well. I guess, how do you view the relationship between
with the offensive line?
Offensive line,
yeah, it's pretty cool. Me and Coach Smith right away clicked, and I think that's a really important relationship, the offensive line and the running backs. Everything we do has to marry up to the offensive line. It's really important that we're communicating and we're on the same page with not only the run game, but protections. Protection is the most important thing of football. So being able to work hand in hand with Coach Smith, and a lot of his background and my background overlaps in terms of our O-line background and what we believe in. So there's been a lot of really good collaboration between us, and I think you're going to be able to see that, just the relationship with the running back room and that room. So yeah, it's definitely something I'm looking forward to working with more on.
What do you think about the nickname, the Juice Squad, and how much have you heard about that?
Yeah, right away. That was when I texted all those guys when I was coming. Adam said, "Welcome to the Juice Squad," and I didn't really know what that meant. And so when I got here, that was one of the first things I said, like, "What is that?" And we had a pretty open and candid conversation about what's that mean. Anybody can have a brand, but what does that brand bring to the room, and how are we going to use that brand to be different? And I'll let that kind of what we talked about in that room kind of be in that room, but it was very positive. I think the mindset of that, and one thing that we've kind of taken to the next level in spring, if you watch this practice, is the amount of effort that they're doing on every play. Whether it's a pass play that's away from the play, we're finishing through 10 yards after everything. So you've been able to see that mindset change, and it's been able to, really, as we say, the juice squad has been able to add some juice to the room. So,
what stood out most schematically when you were looking at this job from the run game that they run here?
yeah, when you have a quarterback like Tommy, there's a lot of eyes on him as a defense, and I think what's been really cool is I've followed Coach Thurbick's career a little bit, and being able to see his evolution of the RPO game and what he's done with that. I knew when Coach Vegan made that hire that was going to be a really good addition to what the offense was here, which was, obviously really good offense. A lot of that was, to attribute to the quarterback play and how much attention he needed. Well, how do we, fill those shoes? And I know we talked about in the room was every running back said we have big shoes to fill, and I kind of was like, well, it's different shoes. When you go back to Jordan and how Nike, how they kind of came into the deal, it's a new shoe. I think we got to become a different brand of offense, and so adding that RPO element and what that's going to do to a defense and how they're going to have to honor that backside. Whereas Tommy was that way they can honor that. We have the pass game now, so I knew right away that was going to be something that I was interested in, and I have some background in, and was able to add in some, some new ideas to that. So that was intriguing to me. And then anytime you have an offensive line room like we have, you're going to be good on offense, or you should be good on offense. And I think when you can lean on your offensive linemen, especially at this level, you're going to be really talented. So that was intriguing.
What was kind of the offense you ran at Robert Morris and your other OC stops?
Yeah, I had some interesting background with that. I was obviously two-back background at Wyoming, so we did a lot of the A-gap power. So when I first went to Morgan State, we did that, and we started adding in some. We didn't have as many tight ends or big bodies, so we had to get creative with it. So we started doing a little bit more RPOs off of that, and evolved it a little bit. And I was able to, I was talking with Coach Housewright while he was here about some of the things that they were doing RPO-wise with it. So we evolved from the two-back and kind of became more of a two-back principles, but we did more RPOs. And then at Robert Morris, we shifted in motion almost every play. That was our equalizer, in terms of being able to – we had half the amount of scholarships that the rest of FCS had. So we had to find ways to be different. We weren't going to do triple option, so we had to do shifts, motions, unbalanced, RPOs, play action. So we did a lot of that, which was definitely made me a better coach, because you had to find out different ways to create mismatches. So looking forward to trying to help out and bring some of those principles here.
Adam's obviously got a lot of talent, had a breakthrough year last year, but what is something, if anything, that you want to see him improve on?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of his film. I haven't had the opportunity to work with him directly on the field just because he's been getting back into it. But he's an incredible person. And I think being able to take his leadership to the next level is something that I've tried to really pour into him on. I think that his, what he did on the field and the type of person he is, people are going to gravitate towards him. So how do we take that into the next level? Being a running back, you're not necessarily a quarterback, and I know he has some quarterback playing background, but we got to lean on him, and he's got to be ready for that risk of leadership and taking on that risk of leadership. And I think my background in quarterback play, I took pride in leadership, and I think that room, and especially Adam, he's going to have to take that next step, and that's doing all the little things right. So to answer your question, I think leadership. Everything else, though, I think he can fine-tune little things. I think there was a lot of times last year he was probably a little antsy on some cuts. We call it chasing ghosts, when you really don't get behind your blocks, you just go. And he got away with it because he's such a great athlete. But I think if he is able to continue to press his course and landmark, he's going to be able to set up a lot of blocks and have more success.
Julius unfortunately dealt with some injury last season. Got this extra year back. What are you most excited for officials in your campaign?
Yeah, really excited about him. I've watched a lot of film on him in the last couple of years for what he's done, and I think the way he plays, he's a aggressive running back. He's gonna hit you. I mean, he becomes a different person. He's such a nice guy outside of the field, but when he's in between the lines, I mean, you can see it. It's like, oh, this guy's a little different. But he's got to be smarter in terms of how he protects his body. It's kind of like what I was saying, chasing ghosts. There's sometimes as a running back, you feel this big open grass and you think you want to take it. Well, linebackers now are going to be free to hit you. Rather than running through arm tackles, staying behind your blocks, a lot of times he was bouncing away, taking on linebackers one on one. Well, your body's not going to be able to take that when you're running the ball 20, 30 times a game. So being able to be smarter in how he's setting up his blocks and pressing his course to landmark and just being better with how he takes care of his body before practice, after practice, how we use them in the game. I think those are all things that we can do to help him. But he's got to do the little things too to help himself, being in better conditioning, being stronger, being more flexible. So all those things are things we're working on, and he's been awesome. And I think he's really excited about this year, and he's doing what he needs to.
Does that mean he's going to be less hurdling this year?
See, I tell him all. He always asks that. Can we hurdle? Hey, as long as you're making one miss, we talk about it all the time. If you're elite, you make the first man miss. So if that means he's got to hurdle him, he's got to hurdle him. I would prefer him to keep his feet on the ground, but I think that's kind of the fine line of you don't change someone's athleticism. Just because I couldn't do it. I got to let him be who he is, and but no, he's definitely gonna still let him do that as long as he's taking care of the football and taking care of his body.
Even Tommy Moss started doing it last year, so it might rub off on the teammates.
Yeah, no doubt.
You've been a bunch of different places, including overseas. Did you have a favorite stop or most memorable stop in your coaching career?
There's been a lot of favorite spots. I immediately think of people. I was fortunate enough to be in Switzerland and France and be around some amazing people and that were sponges into the game. I had some of my best friends were with me in Baltimore, were with me in Pittsburgh, so I was able to really build lifelong friendships out of this thing. So I would say more so that, and I've been just around really good coaches that have let me grow in the profession. So yeah.